In a recent video, in fact a very recent video, we were fishing creeks and we're using tube flies. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and talk a little bit more in depth about the tube flies that we're using, why we're using them, and tie a tube fly. In this case, this is the very same pattern we were using for in that video. Tube fly, the main reason why I like tubes is the flexibility of them. You can play around the hook game with them. You can fish them in a few different situations, but more so that I can have a little larger fly with I can play the hook game. I don't have to have such a big heavy hook. So a lot of in fact I'll grab this one right here that I just tied a little while ago. We can have a reasonable hook in here and we're not going to cause a lot of damage to the fish, and we can play around with hook sizes. We go a little bit bigger, a little smaller, and the hooks will be just easy to adjust those things around. The rig 'em, you just run this is my tippet, and you string it through the front of the fly, run it through, then tie your hook on, then pull your hook, probably as I showed in the video, right up into the tube. And I think this is why it's working so good, better than shanks. The hook is really stabilized inside the fly, so when the fish comes up and grab it, the hook is not getting pushed around. It's a lot more secure. Now let's go and put this thing back up for a prop here. I'm going to show you a couple of tubes that I use. That goes right in the vise really easy. In this case I'm using plastic tubes. You can probably see I got a couple of dots already figured out to where I'm going to cut the tubes up. I like these because they're inexpensive. I can cut them to size, whatever I want to be doing for the size of the fly. I've been using plastic a lot because it's cheap and it keeps the cost down, but you can also use them in a bunch of metal. They come in metal tubes too. In this case I got brass, or excuse me, copper and aluminum, and they also come in brass. The problem with the copper and the brass is they're just so heavy that the flies end up with about as much action as a box of rocks, unless you're fishing in some very big heavy water. So normally if I'm going to run a metal tube, I've been staying with the aluminum, so it gives me enough weight to get down. And you can also put on the plastics here, you can put cones on the front. They make some different flange discs that you can put on to get different actions. You can put them right onto the plastic tubes. And the nice thing about the plastic is once they cut the length, they also kind of have a neutral density to them. So they'll just stay wherever you put them in the water. Alright, at this point what I'm going to do is go ahead and tie one of these flies for you. Alright, let's tie this fly. Let's start out with getting a tube prepped. And I set it down here someplace after our dissertation. Here we are. I've already got these things kind of marked out to the size I want to work with. So I'll just go in here and cut. And since I'm working with these tubes here, I just kind of cut off the ends. They get a little mushed. Plus, you need to kind of melt them back, kind of fix the hole, and in this case, in this end, I'll give something for the tube to hold on to. That went pretty quick. I kind of like used the blue part of the light there. Now it kind of melted and set up. And get it in here. Now what I do is I like to get that little rolled piece of plastic right tight against the stop of the catch here. Put that on pretty tight. You'll see the wire kind of bend a little bit, then you know it's held in place. Standard fly tying thread, and in this case I'm using a lot of uni 6/0. Find my scissors here. There we go. I'm going to kind of come back, and one of the things you need, a couple of things with difference with tubes. Tubes you always got a bend of the hook, a barb, and I kind of use the landmarks. Here you kind of got to guesstimate. So I'm going to stop right back in here and still leave a little bit of clean stuff here to put the junction tube on. So I'll stop right there. I got some silver holographic material, large. I'm using this because I got lots of it. Tie it along the side so we get a nice smooth body here. Come back up, kind of butt wrap it. Oops, there we go. Kind of hide all the red threads. There we are. Tie back onto it. Now, this fly has a series of wings. Kind of first here is going to use the some pearl crystal flash. Get a couple strands here. Now in this case I got 3. 2 or 3, whatever. Happen to come out with 2. Fold them over, so kind of got it doubled. Just kind of lay it over the top here. Little Slav is our friend. Second wing is going to be this White Zonker strip, and I'll tie it on here, and I will tie it pretty securely. I'm going to go down a little bit of here. I'm going to do an undercollar, almost a shoulder with some S-dash, so I'm tie it back a little bit so I can take a fair amount of room. Then I'm going to come back here, and in this case, this fly, I'm using the back of the 2-fly brace here is my measurement, and I'm going to very carefully cut through the leather without trying not to cut the hair. I'm going to chew it up there a little bit more. There we go. Now that should come right along the back there. And the flash was a little long. I like to have it past the rabbit for a little bit, but not too far. Now, at this point, some people will obviously tie this a little bit longer and then do a rib right through the Zonker strip. I like to leave it loose. And by leaving it loose, I get more action. Plus, if I cut it right here, right on the back of the pin vise holder, when I put a hook in here, I know that the leather strip is going to be short enough that it won't file up and hang in the hook. So I don't have a tangling problem. So if I don't have it tangling onto the bend of the hook that's in the tube, I can leave this loose and get more action out of it. Alright, find the end here. This is a big handful of Metallica silver S-Daz is what I happen to be using, but use whatever you got. If you got some pearl S-Daz, use that, or if you got some other color you prefer, it's a large S-Daz. You know, it's just it's just something to put 3 turns on. And I like this pearl. It kind of matches what's going on. Excuse me, silver. Like I said, pearl will work just fine if you don't have silver. Kind of make sure that's secured. Everything's looking good. We're going to put the first layer of collar on. This is some strung Hackle, white. We're going to use this as the first layer of collar. Nothing fancy here. Everybody says how many turns. I like to remind everybody until it looks right. There's about 3, 4. That looks pretty good. We'll tie it off right there. It's able to snap that without losing it. Fold back a few little fibers, make sure that's locked in place. Now here's some grizzly. It looks like some grizzly hen. I just want to put a second collar on here. These things are a little shorter than what I like to use, but I've been making them work, so I used a little extra longer stem to get everything tied in, secure. And I gotta use as much of this I can, so I'll use a Hackle pliers to try to catch it. There's one turn, kind of groom over. Second turn, a little bit of grooming. Third turn. Geez, we're going to do alright. We got about 3 there. That looks okay. There we are. Sometimes those hackle tips are so fine I can snap them. I don't have to cut them. Little tip here, if your collar hackles are sticking out like a porcupine, come back with your fingers, get a hold of it, take the other hand, and you just give it little 1/4 inch turns back and forth, and that usually grooms it and lays it over the body pretty good. At this point, we'll whip finish to fly up. I definitely head cement these things with something. Alright, now what we need to do is melt back the front of the tube here so that the threads don't slide off. They will, even if you cement them, they have a tendency to slide. So as you can see, I put the pin back in here so I can work it through the hole, because often when you go to melt it back, you can plug the hole up, come into the blue part of the flame, and just kind of melt it back a little bit, clean the hole, melt it back a little bit, there we go, and let that cool. There we go. Alright, let's talk a quick little bit about the junction tube. In this case, I've been using some of the chartreuse tubing because I got lots of it. You can see it just kind of slides over the junction. That little bump actually makes a nice little grip. Then I like to come up, and I've been using these little dikes just because they're handy, and the tubing's a little stiff. About a 1/4 inch of tubing out is what I'm cutting. So I'm looking at about a 1/4 inch past where the tube sticks in. That's where I'm going. Now for hooks, as I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of different hooks you can use. I've been a big fan of these other 2557 Daiichis. I've been really liking these hooks. In this case, this is a 4, but you can use, if they get a little bit nippy, the fish are not taken too aggressively, I'll go down to a 6. So, but the 4s and 6s is primarily what I use. So here's that little tube fly. Tell me what you think. Don't hesitate to put this into the comments. Yeah. If you have any questions, just feel free to put them down in the comments. Let me know what they are. We'll get back to you. If you'd like to see something else tied, put that down in the comments also too. Like I said, we're still kind of getting our feet underneath us, and we're still trying to figure out our way and how we'll do the channel and videos and which direction we're going to go. So your feedback is always very important to us. So give us a lot of feedback, and obviously please like our channel. We need, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, because all the subscribers we get will help. There's going to be more coming in the near future. So thanks for watching.